Good morning. I thought I'd try my hand at Stephen Fry. It didn't really work. I stumbled over there. And it just came out like I'd swallowed a fly. I don't know how he does it. Good evening, good evening, good evening. It's quite hard to do. Do you want to have a go?
No.
It's
quite hard to do.
It is.
You can do a Sandy Toksvig impression if you want.
I should. God, yeah. On that.
No, I can't.
Yeah, maybe I should have practiced it first before I decided to do it live.
That was a good riff.
Good morning, everyone. We are already on interview 2 of day 2 of BGTC UKVC. BGT and CUKVC.
CUKC, yeah.
Fail again. Perfect before as well.
No, I've always missed out the and. It's just
Right.
BGTC UKVC. It's a bit easier. We are joined, obviously, Chris is here with us today, and then Paul Grogan, who
Hello.
pretty much everyone will know from Gaming Rules. Do you pronounce the exclamation mark at the end when you?
I do, yeah.
Rules.
Yeah. Rules. Yeah.
Yeah. A massively helpful video channel for me over the years. I've watched so many of your videos, Paul, learning games. And
Cool.
Obviously, you've branched out recently into so many other various different things. Do you want to tell us about some of that stuff you're doing? Because it's just constant, isn't it?
Well, I mean, it all started. I live down in Devon. I live in a small town, and we haven't had fast fibre broadband. So the reason, so how that impacted me before doing all of the live streams is that whenever I'd create a video and render it, it'd be like, 2-3 gig or something like that. That would take me like 3 or 4 days to upload. Thankfully, the library at the top of my street, literally like 3 minutes walk away, that has super fast broadband. So what I used to have to do was walk up there with the laptop, sit there with the file on a memory stick, and I'd upload all my videos from there. And we kept asking, when are we going to get fibre broadband? When are we going to get it? And he was like, I don't know, somewhere, you're on a list maybe. And then eventually, summer of last year, somebody told me about this new system where there's like this microwave transmitter on top of a hill somewhere, and I should look into that. So I started looking into that, at which point I found I could have fibre broadband. Now, I got it straight away, but the reason I got it was, so I didn't have to keep going to the library to upload my videos, because sometimes I'd upload it, then there'd be a problem, then I'd have to fix it, go back there, etc., etc. But also, every month I did a live Q&A, and the quality of that live Q&A was awful. It was all really pixelated. And I thought, great, it means my live Q&As are actually going to be better quality.
Yeah.
That was a year ago, right? And then I went, I could actually live stream me doing board games. And all of a sudden, got the bug, and I've lost track. It's 100, 150 now, live streams of board games I've done.
Many.
And that's the thing now.
Yeah, and it's not just physical board games, you'd be doing apps and all sorts, haven't you? So.
Yeah. I've been trying to cover everything. I mean, even before lockdown happened, I did cover a couple of digital apps. I tried to focus on the digital apps that were digital adaptations of board games, but I branched out a little bit. But then since lockdown started, I've been covering, a lot more digital stuff as well, because I've avoided Tabletop Simulator and Tabletopia for years. I've heard about them, I dabbled with them, I found them very clunky, and I was lucky enough that I was always in a position that friends would come round and I could play physical games. And I'll always prefer a physical game, don't get me wrong. But then as soon as I got into Tabletop Simulator and went, oh, wait a minute, this is, for me, I'm getting almost the same experience of playing a game with friends. Yeah, it's a little clunky and it takes a bit longer, but we've no options at the moment. And suddenly, the more I started doing it, the more I started enjoying it. So yeah, been doing a lot of that.
Yeah, very good. And this is a question that I realised I don't really know the history of Gaming Rules. For me, it's kind of just, it's always been there, and I've always been able to kind of go on and watch videos and stuff. So how did it kind of come about? What led to the creation of Gaming Rules?
I mean, officially, the company was created, I think, 6.5 years ago. It was actually created at the time I still had a full-time job as an IT manager, because I'd been sort of working in the industry for like 2 or 3 years before that, mainly doing sort of volunteer proofreading, editing, development work for CGE, just because they were a company that I liked the games that they produced. So I kind of fell into that. And then it all really started in a discussion between me, the boss of CGE, and Vlaja Chvatal, in March 7 years ago, I think. Anyway, they sat me down and they said, we want to have a meeting with you. And I was like, and they basically said, look, Paul, you're doing a lot of work for us. And I'm like, yeah, because you're like, you know, one of my favorite companies. I love the games that you're doing. I love Vlaja's games. For me, this as a gamer, this is an honor. This is a privilege. But when you actually look at what I was doing, I was probably spending about 10 to 15 hours a week doing what would class as work for them, you know. And the first 2 times that I went to UK Games Expo, where I was working there on behalf of CGE, they didn't pay me for that at all. So I went to UK Games Expo, they paid for the table, but I paid for the hotel, and I spent 3 days demoing CGE games, and they didn't pay me for it because I didn't ask for any money, because I was like, I approached them and said, look, do you want me to go to this UK convention and start demoing your prototypes of games for people? And they went, yeah, sure. So anyway, they sat me down and they said, look, we cannot have you carry on doing all of this work for us and not being paid for it. It's not fair. So I said, oh, okay, if you want to pay me for what I'm already doing, that's great. Spoke to Vicky about it, and we agreed that for tax reasons, it's probably better if I actually create a company and put all of that money through the company, so it's all done above board and officially. And that's kind of how it started. Now, as a sideline to that, what was also going on at the same time is I wasn't happy with my job. My job was going really, really downhill, and I wanted to start thinking of a way that I could, you know, leave the job and actually do something else. I've always enjoyed teaching games. Even back to when I was like 13, I was the one that would teach people how to play games. Every games club I've ever been a part of, I've always been the one teaching games. I actually love teaching people how to play games. People sometimes, when I don't play in a game and people say, oh, that's not fair on you, Paul. You haven't played in the game. You've just sat there and taught us. I'm like, you don't realize how much I enjoy teaching people how to play games. Cool. So I've always enjoyed doing it. And I thought, maybe if I was to create some like instructional videos online of how to play games, I wonder if that would be an idea. So I spoke to a few people about it. And then one of my friends said, have you heard of this guy in America called Rodney Smith? And I went, no. And looked at his videos and went, yeah, that's pretty much exactly what I was thinking of doing. So, yes, I did technically copy Watch It Played, but I actually had the idea myself first. And it was quite funny. So yeah, it was all of those things combined. Now, when I actually left the job, it was a big risk. You know, we sat down with Vicky, we looked at our personal situation, we looked at the financial side of things, and we said, look, this might crash and burn. I'm going to leave a fairly well-paid job as an IT manager, and we're going to branch out into working in the games industry, setting up my own company. And in a month's time, I might not have any work. You know, it might just fizzle. I've no idea whether this is going to be successful or not. And 6 years on, I think I've had 3 days off in 6 years. So, yeah.
Definitely earning your reputation as the hardest working man in board gaming.
I know, yeah, and I really don't want to. But the rulebook editing actually came later. You know, the original intention of Gaming Rules was just the rules videos, but then the rulebook editing work kicked off as well. And actually, the rulebook editing work for me is now probably at least 40% of my work. Yeah. Sometimes more. So yeah. Yeah.
But I must say though, like, you know, it's an amazing thing you do. Like I've had a few demos off you for various different games, and no matter what the game is, whether I ended up liking the game or not, I've always had an enjoyable experience because of the way you teach games.
Yeah.
And I would urge anybody, if you see Paul at a convention, which is probably most of them these days, do try and go.
Just give him a big hug. He loves that.
Yeah. Big hug and Jaffa cakes.
Everyone. Honestly.
Just. Just go and get a demo because he's just so good at it. And again, even with the rule books, there's often times I've been reading through a rule book and I'm like, oh man, this is a particularly, and I'll turn to the back and often it's got your little logo on it. I'm like, yeah, I knew that. You can just tell from the way, the ease of how it is to learn from a rule book. And has that been your experience, Chris? Because we were talking before, you guys actually go quite a way back, and have you known Paul from way?
Yeah. Yeah. We knew each other during our somewhat
teenage years. Yeah.
And then lost touch when you moved away.
Yeah.
And then I saw you, was it 5-6 years ago, doing a video, I think it was a video presentation on a BGG, one of those.
Oh, yeah.
8-hour streams.
Yeah.
I think it was Dungeon Lords.
Yeah, it would have been
Dungeon
CGE,
Pets.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I saw you on that, and I was like, oh, I know him. I think I sent you maybe a PM or something at that point. But yeah, as far as rule was concerned, a good example is if you can get the PDF of the original Robinson Crusoe rulebook, and then get the PDF of the new Robinson Crusoe rulebook.
Yeah.
That is a very simple way of seeing what Paul does to rulebooks.
Yeah. No, that's
now,
good.
when you say the original, you don't mean the original.
No,
you mean
second edition.
The Z-Man Games version.
Yes.
Yeah, the original was literally nonsense. Like, look, I mean, you can't even find it online anywhere because Portal Games actually published an English version first before they sold the rights to Z-Man Games, and the Z-Man Games got it and they did their magic with it. But it's a tough game. Can I tell you a funny story? Nobody else knows this yet, and I was waiting for the opportunity to tell it to somebody. And the person I'm not going to say who it is because I promised I wouldn't tell them because it's really embarrassing for them. So I was contacted. No, so I was contacted this week by somebody on Messenger who said, Paul, I'd like to talk to you about. Oh, I can't remember what they said. And I'm saying they rather than he or she. And they basically said that the Robinson Crusoe rulebook was awful. It was full of ambiguities, and they were looking for my help with it to see if I would be interested in working on it and making it better. And I'm like, is this a joke? I'm sure this isn't a joke. And I've had correspondence with this person before. So I said, what? That's interesting because, a lot of people have said the Robinson Crusoe rulebook is really good. So, I am curious to know what exactly it was that was the problem with it. So they went into some details and I was like, oh, that's really interesting. I said, I don't know if you know, but I was the one who actually wrote that book. And they went, oh my God, I'm really sorry. And I said, no, I am really curious because if you think, they said that they were almost unable to play the game because there were so many things about the rulebook that were unclear. And I said, look, I really want to know. I'm not angry about it. If there's something wrong with it, let me know. And they went, well, hang on a minute, your name's not in here as an editor. At which point I'm thinking, oh, wait a minute, what has Portal Games done? Have they removed my name from the rulebook in later printings? So I said, well, send me a link to the rulebook. It was the Polish version of the rulebook. So this person speaks Polish, okay? And they were going off the Polish version of the rulebook. So I said to them, look, I really would like to get to the bottom of this. Can you go away and look at the English version of the rulebook and look at the Polish version of the rulebook, read them, compare them, and come back and let me know? And they came back to me yesterday and they said, right, I've done that, Paul. I've been through both of them. And the Polish rulebook's completely different. And it's complete nonsense. And there's loads of things wrong with it. And there's loads of ambiguity and there's errors all over it. And the English rulebook is absolutely fine. And I'm like, right, good. I'm off the hook. But she said, they said to me, they said, promise you won't ever tell anybody this story because it was so embarrassing for them to basically, say the rulebook's awful.
So is that the latest version of the Polish game? Or the Polish version?
It is.
And they've just screwed up the rulebook on it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Cool. Good to know.
Well, because I guess what they probably did was wrote it in Polish, then translated it to English, and then gave it to you. So you've tidied up the translation, but they've probably not tidied up, gone backwards, and then tidied up the Polish one.
This is one of those things, working in the rulebook industry, you get to see... Because when I was a gamer, and a game came out, and you went, oh, the French version of the rulebook says that you draw 3 cards from the deck, and the English version says you draw 4 cards from the deck. Yeah. And I'd be getting angry as a gamer, and I'd be thinking, how can they let this happen? Now that I actually work in the industry, I see how these things happen. The files go off to the translators at a certain point, but the file is sometimes still being worked on. And then changes get lost and everything else. So I think they were working on the multiple language editions at the same time, and the two sides didn't meet because I was doing such an intensive edit of the rulebook, effectively rewriting the whole thing. What they should have done, they should have realised how much work I was doing on the English version and gone, right, done, and then translated the English version. But, that would have taken time.
Yeah. I know it's tricky, though, because obviously working on the Fog of Love when we were doing the German translation, and I know you've done a load of work and, a big advocate for trying to get gender-neutral pronouns and stuff in rule books and things like that. But in Germany, they just don't have that. Like, it's just not possible. And so there's a movement amongst some gaming companies, and we did it with Fog of Love, is to actually translate it into the female pronouns rather than the male pronouns, just to try and balance things out a bit. So that was kind of funny, because we got just a bunch of stuff, obviously, came into the mailbox at first going, this doesn't make sense. So, it does make sense. It's just she, not he. So that was kind of funny. But yeah, it must just be so. You must just have such an eye for detail to be able to just comb through all of that stuff and be like, oh yeah.
Well, it's one of those things. I mean, I do seminars on rulebook editing skills and everything else. And at the start of that seminar, I ask everybody in the audience. I say, right, hands up, who thinks I've got qualifications in proofreading? And half of the audience will go, well, yeah, he must have.
Yeah.
And I go, no, I don't have that. Hands up in the audience, who thinks I've got like a degree in English? Oh, sure, he's got to have that. No. Hands up, who thinks I've got like advanced level, A-level English? No. Hands up, who thinks I just about barely scraped through my English O-level? And they went, surely not. And I went, yeah. And what I'm going to tell you now is that being a good editor and stuff of a rule book is more for me about the process and the attention to detail.
It's a discipline, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like
it's
absolutely. It's just about putting the time in.
Really. It's the time, it's the effort, and I've worked on 2 rule books this morning before this, and it's about the process that I put in place for checking, double checking, having an extra pair of eyes on it, blind testing the rule book, all of those things. It's a lot of work.
Chase children around the house. That's my achievement for the morning. And then get rid of them for 2 hours.
Well, I had a nice chat with Nick Frost this morning.
Good interview.
So obviously, shortly after this interview, about 11 o'clock, 11 o'clock and then 12 o'clock today, and now because they're almost full, I think you said one of them's got the 11 o'clock's maybe got a space. But you've added in 2 more tomorrow, which is very cool, is showing off the new Codenames online gaming system. I don't know what is being described as.
It is CGE's official online implementation of the game, which I think, now they're not up at the moment, they haven't come back to me, but I think last week I told them that I was doing this, and they didn't say no, yet the system is actually not, they haven't really announced it yet.
Yeah.
And if you go onto the website now, it still says beta in the bottom left-hand corner. So I'm now a little nervous that we're going to be doing some live streams with this system, and the server's going to crash or something like that. Or they decide to take it down for maintenance in the middle. I hope they don't. I have reminded them this morning that I'm doing it. But yeah, this system isn't officially live yet. They haven't really made a big announcement, but they've been working on this in the background for a long time.
Yeah.
And basically, it's a website where you can go on and play games with your friends. And I'll be doing a stream of it in 45 minutes time.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So people can.
Chewy's put a comment in the chat. I'm going to paraphrase because it's Chewy, so it needs translating. What he says is, if you can't support Paul on Patreon, watch his videos, like and comment. It all helps support Paul and the channel, etc.
I was going to circle back.
And he finishes by saying he is too nice to ask. So that's why I just do it.
I was going to circle back because I wanted to chat about this thing that you've done. Obviously, you've switched on adverts on YouTube, but I think you've done it, in a really good way. So maybe you want to tell us a bit about what you've done there.
Yeah, I mean, I struggled with this for a long time, and again, it goes back to a conversation that I had with Vlad Shivatul when I set up the channel, and I said, "What do you think about YouTube adverts?" And he went, "I absolutely hate them. Don't put them on." And I went, "I feel exactly the same way." Okay, so I've avoided having adverts on my channel. For 2 reasons. The first one is I absolutely hate them. And the second one is a moral problem that I had with it that I've discovered in the last couple of months. I am the only person who has this problem. Okay, so everybody else has said, Paul, you're being crazy. What are you on about? Don't be silly. But a lot of the videos I make on my channel were not commissioned. But the ones that were commissioned, where a publisher has paid me to create a video, I felt it was wrong to turn on YouTube adverts. And as I say, I'm the only person who thought that. But that's the way I felt. It felt wrong to make a little bit of extra money on the side when I was already paid to do the work. However, I've been told by many, many people that if you don't have YouTube adverts on, the algorithm downgrades it. So it shows up less on people's feeds and things like this. And, despite me sort of, putting in the hours and working hard, unfortunately, the average views and engagement on my videos has actually gone down over the last 2 years. So I thought, well, maybe it's because of this. Let's see. So I had a chat with somebody in America about it. And they said that there's various types of adverts you can put on. You don't have to put on the ones which are banners at the bottom or interrupt or anything else. You can configure it. So I said, okay. And then I went for a walk to the shops, and simply on that 5-minute walk back from the shops, this idea struck me. And I thought, oh, if I turn on advertising and give all the money to charity, win, win, win. You know, suddenly the algorithms helped. I don't feel guilty because I'm not making any extra money on it, and I'm giving the money to charity. Yeah. So the charity benefits. I thought, this is great. So yeah, I decided to do that. So yeah, cool. So adverts have been on the channel now for 2 months. If you go to any of my videos and you see the advert pop up and you think, oh, bloody Grogan's turned on adverts, I hate adverts, every single penny that's made through the advertising goes to charity. Now, I'm not allowed to say how much it is, so I won't ever say that, because YouTube frowns upon content creators saying how much they've made from it. It isn't much, but you know, it helps.
Yeah. And are you sticking with one charity, or are you kind of changing as you go on?
Yeah. At the moment, it's going to be Doctors Without Borders, because I think they're doing a lot of good work. Yeah. You know, with the current crisis. But yeah, I'm going to see how I feel, because a lot of people have come back to me and said, Paul, it's very honourable what you're doing, but to be honest, once we get out of this global crisis, you should actually just keep that money for yourself. You know, you work hard at it, you should keep at it yourself. And I'm like, okay, we'll see how I feel about it. Maybe I'll go to 50-50. I'm not sure. But yeah, it probably won't be the same charity constantly, but I'm not going to change charity every month. Yeah, sure. Because that'll be too much admin overhead on that.
Yeah, definitely. But if people do want to support you, obviously you have a Patreon that runs.
Yeah.
And I haven't got the link on screen, I'm afraid. So maybe if you remember the link off the top of your head, which I'm sure you do.
It's patreon.com/gaming rules. Yeah, and the Patreon there is to fund all of the content that I create, which isn't commissioned by the publishers. I try to make this clear. Again, I don't want people to give me money for the how to play videos, because I've already been paid for the how to play videos. And I don't want to sort of say, oh yeah, also support me on Patreon for something that I've already been paid for. But at least 60% of the content that I'm making at the moment is not funded by any publisher at all. So that is only possible through the support of the Patreon.
Yeah, very good.
Question from chat.
Yeah,
Chris Hunter. I think you may have been asked this question 1,000 times. Oh, okay. I think you were asked it this month in the monthly. Do you have a rule book you would love to work on, as it is so awful?
Yeah, so it is a good question.
So I'm assuming you have an answer ready.
Well, yeah, you're right. I was asked it 3 days ago in my live Q&A. And I can tell you what I said at the time is it's how I feel about Robinson Crusoe. I am personally very, very happy and very proud that I was given the opportunity to take a game which notoriously had a terrible rule book and didn't just fix it, but I spent weeks and weeks and weeks reading through 6 years of BGG threads with every single question that had ever been asked. 64 pages of official FAQ, went through all of the unofficial FAQ, went through all of the unanswered questions.
Isn't that how long the new manual is?
Yeah. So I didn't just do it. I thought, right, I'm going to do this as a proper job. There are other games out there with awful rule books, and I would, you know, if given the opportunity, I would love to do it. I was actually...
It is a shame that you didn't do the Martian follow-up, because that, again, is a great game, but I had to sell it because, for me, the rulebook made it unplayable.
Yeah, that is a shame, but it was at the time where Portal realised they needed to get their own rulebook person in, because they got me to do their rulebooks for about 1.5 years or so, and then they went, thanks very much, Paul, but we're going to get our own person in-house now, and they did, and that didn't work out, so yeah, they got rid of them. Yeah, I mean, it's a good question for people to come to me. Is there a game that you've got that you think is a good game that's got a really, really bad rulebook? I mean, Chris, I think you've told me about Heroes of Normandy a few times.
No.
Was that not you?
No.
That's the other Chris then.
No, yeah, a long time ago, yeah.
Yeah. See, I've got good memory.
When they did the hardback version in Kickstarter a couple of years ago, the compendium, that fixed it. But yeah, no, that is a fantastic game. It doesn't get enough love because the original rulebook is pants. Yeah. So it'd be something like that. It'd be a game that people out there know is a good game but has a terrible rulebook. And if a company came to me and said, Paul, we know that the original rulebook's bad, we need you to do your magic and write a whole new rulebook. Is there one out there that I would love to do?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, what was really nice is that Frederick Henry from Monolith. Now, Monolith have had notoriously bad rule books over the years. He came to seek me out at Gen Con last year, I think. Yeah. He knew where I was going to be, and he came to find me. He introduced himself as if I didn't know who he was, but I did. And he said, Paul, I want to have a discussion with you. We're launching this big new project. As you probably know, Monolith have a very, very bad reputation for rulebooks. He's now the CEO of Monolith because he wasn't before. He is now the CEO. And he said, and the one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure our new rulebooks are better, and we want you on board. I'd like to, sign a deal with you now, get you on board, and I want to announce to everybody that you're going to be working on our rulebooks. Well, my head grew so big, I couldn't get out of the hotel lobby, and this is an American hotel lobby. Unfortunately, the project wasn't successful, and it fizzled and it died a death. It was the Monoliths Beyond the Monolith, which I thought was a fantastic idea, but and he wrote to me and he said, look, Paul, really sorry, I was looking forward to working with you, and unfortunately, I mean, he spent 6 months working on that project, and then it just didn't happen. So
I think they said they'll try and bring it back, though, didn't they?
I hope so, and I hope we're able to make that work, because rather than it being a specific rule book, it's a company which has a little bit like Portal Games, a company which has a bad reputation for rule books. If I can get along and suddenly fix that company's reputation, obviously it helps my reputation as well. But I like fixing problems. I'm a problem fixer. So for me, a company that makes bad rule books is a problem. If I can fix that, then that's good.
Yeah. One of my favourite rulebook little stories was, I don't know if I want to mention the game, but it was Cottage Garden, and the publisher had put in the front of the rulebook, we focus on quality and we won't let any games go with any mistakes and stuff. But it came with a pack of stickers that you had to stick over some rules in the rulebook, and then another pack of stickers where you had to stick stuff on the board because it was misprinted.
I know. And that's I remember Cottage Garden, when it came out, was being played at the Columpton Games Group, and 2 copies were brought, and they were both playing it, and one was playing with rules with stickers on, and the other one's playing it with new rules that they downloaded off, and they couldn't agree which rule set was correct. And I'm like, that happens, okay? Games come out with bad rule books, but don't put on the front cover of the rule book that we pride ourselves on quality. And it's like, I got a rule book, and again, I won't say who it's from, but I'm working on a rule book at the moment. And we're already on version 2 of the rule book, and I already added in loads of comments to say, okay, your capitalization is all over the place, right? You need to standardize. Is it going to be uppercase cards, lowercase cards? What is it going to be? Here's a load of suggestions, and what you need to do is you need to do a find and replace through the whole document and make sure the consistency of the terms is all. And the person doing the rule book said, yep, absolutely no problem. I pride myself. I'm a perfectionist, and I pride myself on quality and getting everything right. And then version 3 came back. Oh dear. And I'm like, just don't say it.
set yourself up.
Yeah, you feel. And I said, how hard is it to do a find and replace? And I'm like, so.
A few people asking for Trismegistus. I can't remember. I don't know.
Trismegistus is an awful rule book. Absolutely one of the worst rule books that I've read in the last year.
City of the Big Shoulders. I think that was one that you said was.
City of the Big Shoulders. That's an interesting one. And I listened to a podcast actually, which the designer of City of the Big Shoulders was on, and I'd been tipped off. And he said, "Oh, Paul, he mentions you on the podcast." And I thought, "Uh-oh, what's he going to say here?" And I listened to the podcast, and he was basically asked the question. He said, "Look, let's talk about how you felt when considering he's the designer, new game, new company, new publisher, and Paul Grogan does a review absolutely slating your rule book. How does that make you feel?" And I thought, uh-oh, what's he going to say here? And he actually said to me, he said, "Look, I'll be honest with you. When you've created a game, it's your baby. And if somebody's saying bad things about your baby, that's going to hurt, okay?" He said, "But I listened to what Paul said, and I didn't disagree with a single thing. All of the things that he mentioned that were problems with the rulebook were problems with the rulebook, okay? And it needed somebody like Paul to point them out, because fans of the game were just saying, yeah, it's fine. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Paul's talking nonsense." And it's like, so he took it on the chin, and then he contacted me and he said, "Paul, we're going to be working on a new version of the rulebook. Would you be interested in working with us to make it better?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay, yeah." I mean, I didn't slate the rule book in order to get more work. I didn't, you know, I don't want the extra work. But I said to him, yes, because I'd already been through that process. I'd already read through the rule book. I'd already found the problems with it. Putting that in writing and helping fix it and make it a better rule book was, you know, was something that I could have done. So yeah, hopefully the new version of that rule book is coming out soon, and it should be a lot better.
Great. Cool. Well, I think we'll wrap it up there. We could talk all day. I would encourage people, if you want to hear more from Paul about all these different things and lots of other topics as well, do go and subscribe to his channel. Watch the Q&As, watch all the live playthroughs and stuff. There's so much that you could get going on. And please do consider supporting his Patreon. If you're around in half an hour, tune into Codenames. You might be able to jump in and play. If not, just have a watch. And again at 12, and again tomorrow at 11 and 12. As well.
That should be going live. It'll be going live on my YouTube channel, where it will be there forever.
Great.
But if I can get this plugin working that you two have been helping me out with, hopefully it's going to be going live on the Facebook page as well.
Great.
We will see. I've got it all set up.
We'll figure it out.
I might actually do a quick test and then delete the video afterwards. But yeah, it should work.
No worries. So please head over to youtube.com/gaming rules videos. You'll find the link to the Patreon and everything else on there. Give us subscribe, because I believe subscribing also gets stuff up the rankings as well.
Yes, definitely
subscribe, like, comment, everything.
Yeah. And even if you just open the window to my latest how to play video, just open it in the browser, leave it running and go shopping. That counts as a view. We're good with that.
Just think of the children. Thanks a lot, mate.
Awesome.
Cheers,
Paul. See you soon.
We'll see you all later on. Cheers all.